Okay, grade 10s, let's begin our lesson. This is lesson 2, Pythagorean Theorem. We are in unit 6. I just want to make sure that you know we're on page 9 and 10 of our student handout of blank notes. In addition, you'll find the completed notes, the master copies, along with this video in the LMS. And there's also going to be a little bit of homework here. That's page 11 of your student handout. That is your homework, a little bit of practice for the Pythagorean Theorem. I hope that this is not too long a lesson. If you're following along, then you'll notice that the lesson begins with some fill in the blanks. Okay, so for any right-angled triangle, the area of a square placed on the longest side of the triangle is equal to the sum of the areas of the squares placed on the other two sides. And you'll see those blanks filled in the master copy. Okay, so it says area of C equals area of A plus area of B. Again, you'll see that in the master copy, which I've posted. Okay, C is the longest side of a right-angled triangle. It is called the hypotenuse, and it's opposite of the right angle. The other two sides are called legs, and they're labeled A and B. So I'm going to sketch that out really quickly because that's going to help us. Okay, so there's a terrible triangle right there. We'll call it a right angle triangle. That's not at all what it is, but we'll call it a right angle triangle. Okay, we'll say that this is H, which is our hypotenuse. Okay, and that's going to be side length C. Now B and A are interchangeable, and we call those the legs. Okay, so our Pythagorean theorem formula, which is in the big box on the bottom of page 9, okay, is C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Okay, and it only works for right-angled triangles. Okay, so we're going to jump in just with that formula. We're going to go straight to the examples on the back. Okay, and basically it's one example with 4 different questions. Okay, so example 1A, calculate the unknown side for each right-angled triangle. I'm just going to quickly sketch quite poorly each of these triangles, but they're given to you. Okay, so this is the triangle that you're given in the note. Okay, the legs are given to you, 4 and 3, and then we're asked to find side C. Okay, what the steps we have to follow are: step number 1, we're going to label our sides starting with C, then A and B. So C is already done for us. We'll make this side A and we'll make this side B. Okay, then we're going to substitute our values into the formula, which is C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Okay, when we sub in, we get C squared equals 4 squared plus 3 squared. Okay, scratch that. C squared equals 3 squared plus 4 squared. Should be the correct way to write it. Okay, so now what we have to do is rearrange and solve. So the first thing we'll do is we'll square each of our numbers here, 3 squared and 4 squared. So we'll get C squared equals 9 plus 16. Okay, C squared equals 25. All I've done is I've added. Now what I have to do is I have to get rid of this squared. So what I must do is square root both sides. Okay, I have to square root both sides. So I'll get C equals, and the square root of 25 is 5. Okay, so that is my answer for that question. Okay, B, okay, is given to us like this. Okay, so our missing side here is B. The right angle is here. That means this opposite side here, that must be C. That's the hypotenuse, the longest side, okay? And that means that we'll label 5 as A. Okay, so it's a little bit different here. Since we're not looking for the hypotenuse, we're actually given the hypotenuse. So we'll, again, write the formula out. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Okay, we'll plug in what we know. 13 squared equals 5 squared plus, and we don't know B squared, so we'll leave it as B squared. We don't know B. Okay? 13 squared is 169. 5 squared is 25. And B squared we don't know. Okay? And now we have to do a little bit of rearranging. So algebraically, we'll bring this 25 over to the other side, and we'll get 169 minus 25 equals B squared. We subtract those two numbers, and we'll get 144 equals B squared. Okay? And then our last step is we have to get rid of this squared, so we will square root both sides. Okay? So 144 square rooted is 12 equals B. Okay? So that is our final answer. Okay? So make sure you get that copied down. Again, we're going to try to get through this lesson nice and quick. Let's look at C. C gives us this. It's not one triangle, but two triangles, okay? And they're both right angled triangles. So what we have to do is we have to solve for X and for Y, okay? Now, X is going to be the side we want to solve for first because it's connected to, get my highlighter, this right angled triangle. So we'll start with that one because two of the sides are given to us, okay? We've got two sides and we need to find the third. And so that's where we want to start, okay? So we'll start by saying, let's find X, and then we'll label this triangle, okay? So we'll call this A. This side is the longest side and it's opposite the right angle, so that must be the hypotenuse C, okay? And that means X is B, okay? So let's write out our formula. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. C squared is 15 squared. A squared is going to be 7 squared. And B squared we don't know, but we know it's X. So we'll say X squared. We'll plug that X squared in. Okay, so I just changed B to X because it's the variable the question gives me. Okay? So 15 squared is 225. Equals 7 squared is 49 plus X squared. Now I've got to do a little bit of algebra by bringing this 49 over to the other side. So 225 minus 49 equals X squared. I do that subtraction and I get 176 equals X squared. I've got to square root both sides. And so what I'll get is 13.3 equals X. Okay, so I can put that in my diagram. So now I know that side is 13.3. And now what I have to do is I have to solve this separate triangle. I've got to find Y. Okay, so I have to go back and relabel. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll make this 14A. This Y here is going to be the hypotenuse or C. And then we'll leave 13.3 as side B. Okay. Rewrite my formula. And now I'm going to use the new numbers that I have. Now I don't know what C squared is, but I'm going to call it Y because that's my missing variable. Okay, so I'm just going to change the C to a Y because that's my missing variable. Equals A squared is 14 squared plus B squared. B squared I know is 13.3. I'm going to put it in brackets and then square it only because it has a decimal and I want to make sure we don't make any mistakes with using that decimal. Okay? So y squared equals 14 squared is 196 plus 13.3 squared, okay, is 176.89, okay? So y squared equals 372.89. What do I have to do now? I've got to square root both sides, okay? And I'll get y equals, what's the square root of 372.89? You need a calculator, but you'll get about 19.3, okay? Okay, so we have that. Now D is a little bit different because D does not give us a diagram. D does not give us a diagram. D gives us A equals 3, B equals the square root of 4, and then it says, what is C? C is question mark, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to have to draw our own diagram. Okay, so there's a right angle triangle. Put the right angle on there. The hypotenuse is always C, and that's going to be my question mark. I don't know that. Okay, we'll make this A, so that's A equals 3, and this bottom here is B. B equals square root 4. Okay. So now I've got a right angle triangle. All I had to do is took my information and I turned it into a diagram here. And then I'll write my formula. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Okay? So C squared, I don't know. A squared, that's 3 squared plus. Now B is, be careful here, it's square root 4 squared. Okay? So 3 squared is easy, that's 9, plus the square root of 4 squared. What happens is the square root sign cancels out the squared, and we're left with just 4. Okay? So then we have C squared equals 13, and we'll square root both sides, and we'll get C equals roughly 3.6. Okay? And that's it for this lesson, very short lesson. Page 11 is your homework, so please make sure that you practice your Pythagorean, the Pythagorean theorem with some practice questions, okay? And until next time, please stay safe, healthy, and keep studying. Bye-bye.